Just think about your day. From the moment you decided what to have for breakfast to the big career choices you've made, your whole life feels like a string of your own decisions, right? We all like to think we're the captain of our own ship, rationally weighing all the pros and cons.
But what if I told you that most of those choices aren't really truly yours? That there are these unseen forces, these tiny hidden glitches in your own mind that are constantly pulling the strings and guiding your decisions without you even noticing.
Okay, let's just dive right in with a killer experiment from Dan Ariely's book, Predictably Irrational. So imagine you're looking at a subscription for The Economist. You've got two choices, web only for $59 or print and web for $125. What do? It's not a super obvious choice, but now, what if they add a third option? A print-only subscription for $125, the exact same price as the print and web bundle. Now, this just seems dumb, right? I mean, who in their right mind would ever choose that middle option? It's clearly a terrible deal. Well, check this out. When Ariely ran a test, that useless option had a huge effect. Without it, most people picked the cheaper web-only plan. But with that decoy in there, a whopping 84% of people suddenly went for the most expensive package. You see, that terrible middle option wasn't there for you to choose it. It was there to make the expensive option look like an absolute steal by comparison. So yeah, that was no accident. It actually points to a fundamental, totally predictable glitch in how we think. These are the hidden bugs in our mental software, and they prove that your mind isn't quite the fortress you might think it is. It all boils down to this thing Ariely calls relativity. See, our brains, they're kind of lazy. They hate doing hard, abstract work. We have no idea what the absolute value of an Economist subscription is. But what we do know is that getting something for free feels awesome. So when we compare print only for $125 to print and web for $125, our brain just lights up and says, wow, the web part is free. That easy comparison tricks us into thinking it's the smartest choice.
But believe me, the rabbit hole goes way deeper. Get ready for another mental glitch, and this one, it's going to sound completely absurd. Could a totally random number, like the last 2 digits of your social security number, actually affect how much you'd be willing to pay for a nice bottle of wine?
Of course, when Ariely suggested this to his students, they basically just laughed at him. I mean, come on. As he says in the book, they were totally sure that some meaningless number couldn't possibly influence a real-world decision about money. But, oh, the results told a very different story.
This shows the incredible power of anchoring. So Ariely had his students write down the last 2 digits of their social security number first. Then he asked them to bid on stuff, like a cordless keyboard. The results were just wild. Students with high social security numbers, think 80 to 99, bid an average of $56. And those with the lowest numbers? They only bid $16. That completely random, arbitrary number became an unconscious anchor that literally dictated what they thought the item was worth.
This leads us to this principle Ariely calls arbitrary coherence. The first price we see for something new, that anchor, it can be totally random, totally arbitrary, like a number from your SSN. But once that anchor is locked in our minds, all our future decisions are weirdly coherent with it. Our choices feel logical, even though the whole foundation they're built on is completely random. Okay, one last glitch. Here's a simple choice. A fancy lint truffle for 15 cents or a standard Hershey's Kiss for just a penny. In this test, most people, about 73%, made the rational choice. They picked the truffle. It's a better chocolate, and it's a great deal. Makes sense. But then, the researchers just dropped the price of each chocolate by 1 single cent. The truffle is now 14 cents, and the Kiss is free. Now think about it. The price difference is exactly the same. The truffle is still the better bargain, objectively. And yet, everything flipped on its head. Suddenly, almost 70% of people grabbed the free Kiss. And this reveals the crazy, irrational power of zero. The word free isn't just a price, you see. It's an emotional hot button. It triggers this little shortcut in our brain that just blows right past rational thought.
The moment we see free, our internal cost-benefit calculator just shuts down, and this powerful emotional pull takes over, making us choose something we otherwise wouldn't.
So, we know these glitches are hardwired into all of us. But what happens when someone learns how to exploit them on purpose? Well, that brings us to our next section, the seducer's playbook, and how these glitches can be hacked, drawing from the work of Robert Greene.
Greene's whole idea starts with this. Influence begins by creating a void. As he puts it, a perfectly satisfied person cannot be seduced. So the first move is to stir up some kind of tension, some anxiety, to make them start looking for an answer that you, conveniently, can provide.
So how does this all connect? Well, think back to Ariely's relativity glitch. We only get value through comparison. Greene's hack is to engineer that comparison. A skilled manipulator doesn't just wait for a decoy to show up, they create one. They might introduce a rival, or make you anxious about some flaw you never noticed before, all to make themselves look like the obvious superior solution.
And we see the exact same pattern with anchoring. We know our brain grabs onto the first piece of information it gets. So the hack? You isolate the target. By pulling someone away from their friends, their family, their normal routine, you strip away all their old, comfortable anchors. And in that vacuum, you become the new anchor, the only reference point for what's real and how to feel.
And finally, remember our emotional brain, the one that lunges for that free chocolate? The ultimate hack is to go after that part of us directly. Greene talks about using these overwhelming lures, things like intense pleasure, a sense of mystery, or even pain, to completely short-circuit the rational mind, creating this state of high emotion where a person is just open to anything.
Okay, so we've looked at our brain's faulty programming, and we've seen how it can be exploited. This brings us to the most important part, how to make a conscious choice, how to go from just being aware of this stuff to being immune to it.
It really brings everything together.
You can think about these two perspectives as two different kinds of books. Ariely's work is like the owner's manual for your brain. It's the defensive playbook. It teaches you to spot the decoys, to know your anchors, and to be really careful around free. Greene's work? That's the hacker's guide. It's the offensive playbook for setting those anchors and creating that desire. To really be in control, you gotta understand both.
In the end, this whole big conflict really comes down to a simple truth about us, and it was captured perfectly by Robert Louis Stevenson when he wrote, "Man is not truly one, but truly two." We are all a mix of that rational, calculating Dr. Jekyll and that emotional, impulsive Mr. Hyde. And the real battle for every choice we make is fought right there, inside of us.
But look, this knowledge is a double-edged sword. Now that you've had a peek behind the curtain, you've seen a piece of the hidden code that drives human choice. The final decision? That's up to you. Will you use this code for defense or for influence?